Listen to the intro, okay? Don't skip ahead. Come on. No, friends and family, it actually matters. Low spec, 3D action, free-to-play games. What am I even talking about? Often I get asked actually like, hey, what are some low-spec MMOs? Hey, what are some low-spec free-to-play, FPS or something like that? And so this video, I'm gonna be doing that. We're talking about the 3D games that are low-spec, otherwise it would just all be browser 2D games. So I'll do a whole separate list on those, but these are the 3D games that you can actually push your machine with and push with, actually action-packed gameplay on your laptop or on your old like office PC or whatever. And they're all free to play, so they're all good games to give a shot out and try so that we can see how far your machine can actually go. They're basically just ranked, they're all different genres, but 10 is the most power intensive, and then number 1 is, for the ratio of like how low spec it is to its 3D action. Okay, now you know what the list is. Let's have some fun and let's keep that hype alive. Alright, first one coming at number 10 here for the most graphically intensive game on the list is going to be Genshin Impact, which if you don't know is going to be a waifu collecting open world story driven, episodic actually, like games as a service sort of, kind of Breath of the Wild-ish, clone-ish kind of game. It's really in the shadow of Breath of the Wild, which if you don't know Breath of the Wild, that runs on the Switch. 30 FPS 720p, so Genshin Impact, kind of similar, very similar aesthetically, design-wise, actually has some things that make it run a little bit better. It's not as physics-based, regardless, whatever, it should be able to run easier on your PC, especially considering the fact that it's cross-play with mobile devices. So if your PC can't run, like, smartphone apps, I get it, this is a gorgeous game, it is an action, open-world RPG, but at the same time, at what point do you have a low-spec PC, or you're just playing on a Game Boy? So I did want to start the list off with an incredibly unique game in terms of free-to-play and being able to be low-spec and just the genre that it is. Like, what even is Genshin Impact? This is a full AAA game, it seems. So yeah, you need to play this game, you need to check it out. But if you can't, don't worry, the rest of the list will definitely satiate, you low-spec 3D action fiends. But Genshin Impact is one that I had to put on the list just to kind of get us started, get the ball rolling. And if you can't play this game or many others, you can actually check out an awesome YouTuber called Low Spec Gamer. He actually teaches you how to go into your files and stuff like that, and what settings you should turn down or up in order to actually make your games run on pretty much any machine. Though still, I'm going to be true to my word, and I know I'm kind of pushing it a little bit with Genshin Impact. It's just, technically, its genre, it's unique, it is the lowest spec, type of game that it is, but moving forward, don't worry, I got you. I am focused on games that run on the lowest, 10% machines, and are fun while doing so. And next up, at number 9 is League of Legends. League of Legends is famously for its MOBA genre, comparing to Smite, comparing to Dota, and many others, it's the one that just performs the best. Now, it's kind of lower on the list for a couple of reasons, because it actually is very action-based, and it's very Twitch-based. In fact, I think League of Legends, actually, you kind of want a 120 Hz monitor to play League, which is something that I normally kind of reserve for, FPSs like Valorant or something like that. But League is a game that, the faster you can play this game, the better you will be. Where other games on this list, it's like, oh, the game is kind of slow, you don't actually even need to play at 60 FPS, it's actually fine. No, League, you do want to play 60 FPS, but the way the game is designed, with a generally low poly count, very clean textures, it's not very, it's not very chaotic in terms of its visuals. It's not gross on your GPU. If you even have a GPU or your CPU, it's not too intensive overall. It's easy on the eyes, I think, even on low settings is basically what I'm trying to say. We have League of Legends. So the ratio of, at its low spec, it is literally designed to be the most popular game on the planet, and then at the same time, it is very fast-paced. The isometric view definitely helps with being able to run on most machines, but again, it has a 0 turn rate, everything is skill shots, it's very competitive, so yes, it's lower on the list because you do want to play it faster, better, harder, stronger, but totally playable. You can have fun in casuals, and many characters in the game actually just allow you to play, on lower spec machines. You don't have to always be like Lee Sin and Yasuo at 120 FPS like me, but that option is there if you have scalability, if you want to upgrade later. League of Legends is a great game to kind of grow up with. Okay, number 8 on the list is Minion Masters. This is the only RTS that I think I could kind of recommend. Now, I actually I like the mobile game Clash Royale much more, but I actually don't really promote collecting card games much anymore. Any game that has sort of progression like this or loot boxes. But Minion Masters is basically a Clash Royale clone with its own little mix into the gameplay. I think it's a little faster, snappier, and I don't know, it's a little goofier in certain ways. This is actually kind of an asset flip from a couple other titles, but Minion Masters It's got like, I don't know, 1,000 so players every day, so it's pretty niche. A lot of these games can be niche. The Minion Masters is a game, it's just got a new event going on. Some people come into it, and it's really cute, you know? So yeah, I am gonna recommend Clash Royale, which is the more popular game that you play on phones, and you can play that on BlueStacks for sure. But since I am talking about PC dedicated games, Minion Masters is the one that's gonna pop out to me. Now, I actually wanted to talk about StarCraft or a few other games that even kind of look like Minion Masters. No, for some reason their optimization isn't quite there, or they're too competitive. Minion Masters is that a fun mix of just casual silliness, jump into it, and I think it's a good way to get people into the RTS genre. And then also the subgenres that I guess you would include in like War Tides, or obviously the big one, Clash Royale, these sort of lane tower defense RTSs. Yeah, and other strategy games that are 3D, they aren't like real-time or action-y, so I couldn't put them. So Minion Masters, it just kind of fits right in there. Yeah, well, it's Freestyle too. It's basketball. It's basketball. Now, there's a couple of basketball games, not too many, and frankly, there's really not that many sports games on PC in general, and then free-to-play, and I think it's really surprising. But then again, Freestyle 2, it's a little bit niche, but it's kind of a game that people just know. Like, if you circulate through free-to-play games, you know about Freestyle, but Freestyle 2 is not an MMO or anything like that. It's just like 3v3 basketball, basically. From what I understand, it's basically just like really silly cartoon basketball. I don't think you really need, like, you know, a bunch of memory or anything. You're not rendering giant open worlds like in Genshin Impact. It's not snappy action, you know, crazy ridiculous skill shots like in League of Legends, explosions and fireballs. Yeah, it's basketball. There it is. You know, that's pretty safe to put in there, right? I would actually, you know, to be honest, I wish I could have put a racing game in this slot. So if anybody knows any sort of racing game, or if you just want to shout out any other low-spec 3D game, please do it in the comments below. But for my genre of sports, this one just kind of screamed, like I just had to put it on there. But I really think that there should be like a low-spec, almost like Sega arcade racer kind of game. If not, maybe I'll make it. I don't know. If it doesn't exist, I'll make it. But Freestyle 2, yeah, basketball. What do you guys think? Okay, now we're getting up through the list. Krunker.io. This is taking the spot of free-to-play FPS, and I think some people were looking forward to seeing Team Fortress 2, maybe. Some people might have been shouting out Tribes, even, or maybe Quake, but Quake isn't free-to-play anymore, unless you're talking about Quake Champions, and hell no. Diabolical, no, there's so many games that maybe you could have said, but Krunker.io is the one. It's not a giant battle royale like Fortnite, even though that can be played on phones, and, you know, it's at the same time, I know it competes with, there's like a bunch of Call of Duty clones that have come out on Steam, but in the end, dude, Krunker can be played in the browser, and Krunker is even coming to Steam. And it's just such a fun game, so let me just talk about it for a little bit. There's like custom maps, there's custom mods built in, even in the browser version, and there's a tremendous amount of like physics-based gameplay, actually, like which kind of reminds of Quake. It's like if Counter-Strike and Quake kind of had a baby, almost. I'm not nowhere near as good to do stuff like that, but Krunker can be played really fast, really competitively, but it's not an esport. See, the reason I'm not putting Valorant or CSGO on the list is because, yeah, you might be able to play those at 30 to 60 FPS depending on your rig, but you need to play those games at 120 Hz or more. If you're not really playing those games. I'm sorry if that breaks your heart. Those are esport games. Krunker is like if an esport game was mixed up with like a Nintendo. You know, it's stupid, it's silly, it's fun, but it still has those mechanics in it. So no, you don't need to run it at like 1,000,000 frames per second, but you can. I literally played this on like just some office PC on the browser, and I had a great time. A lot of fun mini games, things like that. So definitely, if I was gonna give any FPS, any sort of shout out, of course, to me, obviously, the clear winner is Krunker. But if you have any others that you want to shout out, please let us know. All right, so Rocket League, we're halfway through the list. This game is so often actually used in benchmarks because it's just a fun game that generally does look good and runs good on most machines. But it's like how well can it run? You know, can this laptop run it or whatever? So you know, it's a really cool. It's like this is the laptop game. You know, just pull out your controller. Play wherever you are, you know, go to a friend's, have like a little LAN-ish kind of party, maybe. Rocket League is a really cool pseudo sort of party game. You could play split screen if you want to. Yeah, you can jam and have some good times. This go free play. It is free. It'd be a free game, but it's on the Epic launcher. I don't know how you guys feel about that yet, but I think people are kind of warming up to Epic launcher. Literally just constantly giving us free games and then also promoting and sponsoring literal free-to-play games like Rocket League. So I think we're all having fun. We know what Rocket League is. It's cars or rocket and soccer. It's a complex game, but I don't think you need to run it like super hardcore, and you can lower some settings, and it's simple, okay? Basically, you like Freestyle 2 is like, oh, it's just basketball. This is basically, it's just soccer. And it probably should, I don't know. Anyways, so it's pretty, I think, generally well optimized. It's very well understood. And even though it's more graphically beautiful, I think, than Freestyle, and maybe more intensive than other games, at the same time, for how intensive it is and how action-packed it is, it runs very well. And I think a lot of you guys are going to enjoy this game on whatever machine you have. Actually, I'll go as far to say that maybe this is one of the few games, ooh, that's a good list video idea, but this is like, one of the games that are must-haves. Like, it's one of the free-to-play that you just should have on every machine. Alright guys, number 4 is maybe something that's debatable, but it's going to be Roblox. There's not really a free-to-play Minecraft-like game that actually runs good, and Roblox isn't even Minecraft-like. I'm just saying, like, it's cute, and it's got custom maps and game modes, and to be honest, it kind of actually runs like dump. Like, I'm gonna be completely honest. But, see, that's what I'm talking about, though, with certain games, is some games you don't need to be running at 120 frames per second. You don't need, all the graphical trimmings. Roblox is, depending on the game that you actually play, and also remember that it can be played on mobile devices, but depending on the game you play, it can be well suited for lots of lower end machines. I play Royale High, and I'm gonna show some random footage of me playing some random MMOs, and even that kind of ran a little bit dumpy on my machine, which I use for professional video editing and playing high-end games while streaming and recording at the same time. But at the same time, yeah, I don't know. It's like, if you're gonna make a low-spec 3D action free-to-play list, Roblox is gonna be on it. It's gonna be on it pretty high. But I do want you guys to mention down below, what are your favorite games in Roblox that you think are really good for low spec? Again, I will mention Royale High, but I also love Mad City, dude. Mad City was mad good. Alright, number 3 is World of Tanks. And let me explain myself. If you're looking at the gameplay and you think this game is like for like a next-gen PC, I don't know where you've been. Actually, World of Tanks is pretty well suited for lower spec machines and can look really good. And even then, even if you have to turn everything on low, lower the resolution, and maybe even you can alter the, the files to make it look even dumpier, the truth is maybe even at 15 frames per second, you can have a good time in World of Tanks. And I'm somebody who, I literally already said, if you play certain FPS, or I would dare say most FPS, if you're playing at under 120 Hertz, you're not really playing the game. So I'm hardcore, I'm PC Master Race. Yet, World of Tanks is a slower based game, and even though it's an action game technically, it kind of, depending on how you play, I mean, it's almost like a strategy game. It's very slow, okay? So it's like big team battle, but this ain't Battlefield, okay? This ain't no Call of Duty. You're gonna be taking it real slow. It's more tactical and it's very strategic. You're positioning on the map and, kind of communicating with your teammates, spotting enemy tanks, and really kind of corralling them or, doing evasive maneuvers. But it's not to the point of like literal dogfighting like in War Thunder. It's not to the point of some other games, again, like Battlefield or maybe like Crossout or like Twisted Metals, shit like that. It's not that. Okay, so it's very slow. And if this game doesn't work, then even more so, there is World of Warships, which is even slower and even more, I think, graphically less intensive potentially. So try out those 2 games and give it a shot. Alright, now for the category of MMO RPG, or just MMO period, to be honest, it's gonna be Adventure Quest 3D. Adventure Quest 3D is coming from the super silly comic book style Adventure Quest game that was just very much a parody of itself. And that's actually going to carry with this one. Even though this is a 3D MMO and it looks kind of like WoW cartoony clone-ish sort of, yeah, that's a little bit the point. It's really silly. Now, when I actually played with the lead developer, we went and slayed like a dragon chicken world boss thing, and I don't know, it was dumb and ridiculous, but Adventure Quest, it is an action-based game, and it kind of does feel WoW-ish in terms of its combat, but it's kind of more than that, actually. It's more about events. They recently had some events where, like, there was these concerts, like Slipknot, I think, and Breaking Benjamin, were, like, in the game, and it kind of reminds of Fortnite in a way, in that extent, but, it's not to that extent. But Adventure Quest 3D is just, like, this really silly, kind of tight-knit community sort of game where you jump in, and it almost feels like you just logged into Discord, and like, there's your friends, and you're just chatting it up, and then it happens to, you know, there might be a dragon chicken that you gotta kill every once in a while, and that's, you know, that's what it is. So yeah, again, it can be played on phones, you can play it, it's very, very low spec, and there's some other titles that I think some people would have liked for me to have mentioned, like if you want a sandbox, big, open MMO, I could have said Albion Online. Some people want to say games like Toontown or whatever. Those aren't really action games. Remember, I'm putting action, 3D action, you know, for the 3D to actually make sense. So yeah, anyways, my choice, obviously, it has to be, right? Adventure Quest 3D. Kind of an underrated gem. You guys should definitely be checking it out. And to end cap this video here, top 10 low-spec 3D action free-to-play games, I have to put the very first game that I ever put on my laptop, when I had my very first laptop, whenever I was going to Full Sail University for game design, the first games I put on there was Team Fortress 2, but right before Team Fortress 2, because that was the first time I ever installed Steam, was this cute little game that I thought looked neat called Spiral Knights. Did I get very far? No, I didn't. But Spiral Knights is kind of interesting for an action RPG because it's more inspired by Legend of Zelda, where a lot of games are Diablo-like, and it's more like you just have one ability and you spam it and everything explodes on the screen, and it's almost more solo gameplay oriented. Spiral Knights actually has like fun mini games. Like there's like a Bomberman minigame that no one plays, I guess, anymore. Yeah, it's got a smaller community, but it's not an MMO. And by not really, I mean, it's literally not an MMO, even though it says it is. It is a dungeon crawler game that really, the way you want to play it is pick a weekend, get some friends to join in with you, and just run it down. That's what Spiral Knights is. And there's lots of other games that I'm sure you guys could put for action RPG or hack and slash here. Yeah, you know, go ahead and shout them out. Path of Exile is not a low spec game. I wish it was, it's not. But Spiral Knights is. It doesn't take much at all. But at the same time, it's an older game too, so even back then, it was low spec, free to play meant for most PCs and laptops, and now today, oh, I'm pretty sure you could play this game and run it. But it is, you know, it is kind of Legend of Zelda-like if you like the older isometric Legend of Zeldas, shielding, you know, charge attack, stuff like that, oriented blocking. It's pretty neat. I think it's pretty cool. It's got smaller little arenas. It's not like a giant open world to explore like Genshin Impact, and overall, it definitely just makes a lot of sense to put it here in first. Just keep in mind though that, you know, this is a free to play game, but it is older, and so maybe you play action RPGs like as a games as a service. This game isn't really updated anymore. This is really kind of a one and done game. You pick it up, you play it, and then you're done. And that's okay. You know, it's not an MMO, but it's a fun dungeon diver, dungeon crawler that you should be crawling around with your friends in. No excuse. Free, low spec, and I think it looks really cute. I really like its art style, which is why it was the first game that I ever downloaded on my own laptop. But I think I rambled long enough, maybe a little bit. You know, it's just a list video. I just wanted to shout out and give my review on these games for people who are looking for low-spec free-to-play games. And again, a lot of people are looking for exactly this type of game. The game that are 3D and action-packed, that look pretty good, but literally can also be played low-spec. Otherwise, then you would just be finding list videos of just a bunch of IO games, and I already do that too. I've even done 3D IO games lists. I've done, you know, low-spec lists before, 2D MMO lists. Definitely I'm going to leave links in the comment down below if you guys want to click those videos as well. But I got way more lists coming up too, where I'm going to play these games, review them. So if you guys want me to take more time to appreciate these games, play them, and have fun with you on stream here on the channel, subscribe to watch those, and like, you know, and all that good stuff. But if you want to peel some eyeballs on the Patreon to support that endeavor, then that'd be great too. Okay, the outro's long enough. I think that's it. Keep the hype alive. Much love, friends and family. I'll see you in the next one.